Hi, my name is Desmond Young, and today I am thinking of potentially recording like one of my workouts. I'm going to a gym of a friend currently in Berkeley. I guess technically it's like Albany. But I think the goal of today's workout is going to be a cardio day. Usually on cardio days, like I like to run, but I've been having I won't really even call it issues, but haven't been working out for quite a while. Like I'm pretty in tune with like my body and how it feels. So I feel like my right, like Achilles, feels a bit strange at times, maybe after like a hard workout. So I think I want to give today give it some rest and not run on it. I think it kind of flares when I run on it. So I'm thinking today that I will just do some boxing. This gym also has like a boxing bag, only 100 pounds, not really a heavy bag, but it should be enough to get some good work in. Maybe like 5 rounds of like 3 to 4 minutes. I think that's a pretty decent workout. So I'm thinking I'll do that. I think also I'll use the Stairmaster. I might warm up with the Stairmaster. I'll do like, I wonder if I should hold it this way. Yeah, maybe this is better. I'll do like, maybe like 10 minutes to warm up, and then maybe like 3 rounds of like 15 minutes. I'm actually not sure. Maybe 3 rounds of like 10 minutes. I mostly just kind of want to wreck my body, like aerobically. Provide almost like that same kind of stress and testing of the body that like maybe a 7 or 8 mile run would do. So that's kind of what I want to do today. I don't know exactly how I want to format this video, but maybe it'll be like the day in the life of, that's a nice car. Maybe it'll be like, I don't know, a Saturday morning kind of workout. I'm almost out of the morning, but it's okay. Yeah, so shadow boxing, Stairmaster, and also a bit of the rowing machine. I don't know for how much, but I think just trying that out, I think, for a little bit. Really just trying to get more into cardio. I do have, not a lifelong goal, more like a 2-year goal of doing a triathlon at some point. So it's good to, diversify your means of doing cardio. So, yeah, that's what I want to do today. Who's let me in is my friend Isaiah. He's a geography student at Berkeley in his PhD, specializing in Black geographies. Really cool. Yeah, he lives at this building. He's gonna let me in. Hoping for it to be a good session. Hour and a half, 2 hours max. I know sometimes I can be in the gym for a little bit, so I gotta try to like not be in there for so long. But it's a nice day. It's very sunny, as you can see. But yeah, I don't know exactly how I want to record. I didn't really bring a tripod, but I think I'll just show like the equipment. I'll just record myself maybe during the moment, or prop my phone up somewhere. I'm not sure, but yeah, Saturday's just gonna be this workout. I got laundry. I got like these books I need to read. More housekeeping stuff, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's it for me. See you all when I work out. So I finished my workout and I am walking back to my humble abode. It was actually a good workout. Like I don't know how many rounds I did on the bag. Definitely enough. Each one about 3 minutes lasting. Each one lasted about 3 minutes, and then I did like 2 minutes of rest after. And before I started the 2 minutes of rest, I would, right in front of the camera. Before I started the 2 minutes of rest, I would do 5 pull-ups, and then I would do my 10 push-ups. So I did this maybe 4 or 5 times. It was a decent workout. But before I get to the boxing, the first thing I did was I did kind of a slight warm up on the Stairmaster with my sweater on that I had before, in a way to kind of get my body warmed up to start getting sweaty. I wanted to elevate my temperature just a bit while on the Stairmaster before I started boxing, just to kind of like warm my body up, warm my shoulders up, warm my legs up, because I know all those kind of work in tandem when boxing. So I did that, and the next thing I did was to start my rounds. I started the first 2, I did like with no gloves. I didn't even wrap my hands. I just did no gloves, kind of just working on technique. And I do have videos of this, which I think I will include. Part of getting the video is so that I can make this video, but also so I could look at my form, my technique, and I think that'll help me to try to improve. It's not something I do very often. I only am boxing today just because I don't really want to run because of my right Achilles. I think it's fine. I think if I ran, it would have been fine, but I just wanted to give it a break. So today was mostly just boxing and getting back used to that. But it was cool. I did 2 rounds without gloves. Then the next 3 rounds, I did it with gloves. I think I have 16-ounce gloves. I wrapped my hands, put on my 16-ounce gloves. Also recording because, not that the mechanics are different, but it is kind of slightly different just boxing with the gloves because, they're a lot heavier. And it's difficult, trying to swing your body and stay, in motion the entire 3 minutes. But it's nice. It's a difficult workout. And of course, following what I said before, after I finished, just doing like my 5 pull-ups and doing my 10 push-ups. So I did that. I'll probably include some footage of that. What else? So I made it back home. I think in my last video I was saying like after boxing, I did like some rowing. I did that like 3 rounds. The first round I did like, what did I do? First round I did like 3 minutes at like easy to moderate like difficulty. I don't know the exact level. I think I have pictures of it. The second one, I rested like 2 minutes. The second one, I did a much harder round on like the max difficulty. I wanted to do just a minute. And then the third one, I did the lowest difficulty for about 3 minutes. So ranging the intensities of each round. And of course, resting like 2 minutes in between. So I did that and I finished it with 15 minutes on the Stairmaster. I did level 7. So like 64, 67 levels, 64, 67 floors in 15 minutes. So I think I'm gonna have that be my new kind of common standard for my 15 minutes. We'll see how that goes for next week because I do have some days where I do Stairmaster. But I'm back home now. It was a nice walk. It's not super far. And I'm making like lunch for myself. So I'm making these kind of like pseudo, like Chipotle bowls in a way. Let me not, okay. Yeah, like pseudo Chipotle bowls. I have this nice big bowl here and I'm doing like rice as my base. I added like some chicken, maybe like 3/4 to a cup of chicken. I have like a bunch of spring mix, maybe half a cup to a cup of that, and then some cheese. And then a little bit of cilantro sprinkled on top of the rice. And I think this will be my bowl, my lunch. I think in terms of calories, I've had the same meal yesterday as dinner, and I think it was around maybe 900 to 1,000 calories. I'll put it into this app that I use, and I'll show it maybe in this video. But this is what I'm planning to eat to recover. Other things that I'll eat for the day will include, let's see. Okay. Other things that I'll eat for the day will include a protein shake. I like to do 2 scoops of this and some milk. So for every scoop, you do like 6 to 8 ounces of either water or milk. And I like to do milk just because it has protein. Water doesn't. So I do that. I also like to eat around a cup of pistachios a day. That's something else that I do every day. So I can get my fiber and all the other nutrients that pistachios have. This fiber is really important when consuming a lot of protein. I didn't make this meal today, but I usually like to make like oatmeal. I use like salt, cinnamon, sugar, like flax seeds. This here, which has like omega-3s and also has fiber, so it's pretty good to consume. And cinnamon in my oatmeal, but I didn't make that today. What else do I feel like I'm gonna consume? I'm also gonna eat these protein bars, Cliff Builders protein bars, 16 grams of protein, 270 calories, which is pretty good for a little snack. So I usually pair this with my pistachios, and my snacks end up being like a great bit of calories for the day. I try to get anywhere from 27 to 3,000 calories a day, anywhere from 160 to 200 grams of protein. I feel like is ideal. I am standing like 5'7", 5'8", and I'm weighing this morning 162.8. So I'm a little bit around the 160 to 163 range as my morning weight, which is ideal, I think. I think for dinner, just so I can make up for all the calories that I burned during my workout today, which I'm gonna have to like estimate, but I think it's somewhere near, I want to say maybe like 500 to 700, because I did all the rounds of boxing, I did 3 rounds of rowing machine, and I did a total of like 30 minutes on Stairmaster. That by itself is already like almost 400 calories burned. So maybe I'm closer to 800. So I need to like account for those calories in my meals. So on top of like, let's say 2,800, I need to add, an extra 800 to account for the calories that I burn. Because for me, I want to build muscle and strength, but I also believe cardio is important for heart health and longevity. But at the same time, in doing cardio, I don't want to make muscle building harder than it has to be. So I try to supplement enough calories and protein so that I can continue to do both at the same time, rather than, always overexerting and being in a caloric deficit because I'm burning all these calories and I'm not supplementing it with more food and calories. I'd rather be on the other side of it and just make sure all my bases are covered in terms of what I need to maintain the weight that I have. I'd rather maintain rather than like gain too much weight or lose too much weight. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think this meal is gonna be great. I could pair it with my protein shake now, but I think I'll wait a little later. This meal might be slightly heavy, not too heavy, but maybe just a little bit. But yeah. I enjoy meals that don't, like maybe it takes an hour and a half to prep, but then I can, eat it, 3 to 4 times a week. sometimes up to 5 times if it's in greater quantities. I know a lot of people don't like to do that, but I find that works best for me because it saves me time from having to cook every meal. I can cook, maybe on Sunday, on weekends, hour and a half, and then, just eat very quickly, like I warm up my food and I eat it, and yeah, I just feel like it's a big time saver. In terms of my other things for the day, I need to get some videos out. I want to be more strict with getting my videos out. I think this will be in a video that I want to edit and record for today. I've been recording little things. This might be the last thing that I record for the day. So I'll kind of go into like things that I'm trying to do, that I want to do, that's on my list. So laundry was one of them. I'm already started laundry, got my things in the washer and dryer now. I usually do like 1 to 2 loads, like bed sheets and all my clothes and stuff. And the other stuff that I'm gonna do is, where is it? I'm gonna bring them here. There's 2 books that I kind of want to like read a big chunk of today that will kind of aid me in my thesis development. I'm at the part where I am wanting to be more strict about how I'm gonna design. And I guess to give a quick synopsis, I'm doing like an adaptive reuse project of the Alamo Theater in Jackson, Mississippi. It's downtown Jackson on Ferris Street, which is historically a black hub for black businesses. I think in like the 1960s, 1970s, for downtown Jackson. But at the moment, a lot of the buildings on that street are abandoned. Those businesses are no longer, in service. The Alamo Theater itself was in service up until 2024, but now it's closed. I have like pictures and I've done my research, and it served as like this place. Historically, it's a very amazing site. They would host like music competitions. They would have like famous blues and jazz players like perform there. They would host theater competitions. They would do like talent showcases. They would have like community events, always engaging with those around. So I think it's very like, it's a great historical ground for what I want to do. Jackson as a city is majority African American population, but historically Jackson has experienced a lot of like population loss. It has a bad water infrastructure, a bad like residential and urban infrastructure in terms of just like homes. There's been a lot of disinvestment that's very much related and caused by white flight that occurred because of the it occurred because of integration that was essentially about to happen, and because of that, a lot of whites left Jackson and went to like nearby suburbs, which a lot of my family and people in Jackson know of as Madison, Flowood, Pearl, Brandon, Clinton, Ridgeland, Richland, Byram. These suburbs are now like, in a way, bustling communities, bustling cities. And these are places that I often visit with friends when we're looking for activities to do, because there's just this thing that people say, there's nothing to do in Jackson. So that's kind of the root of the disinvestment. A lot of businesses and services left Jackson to go where the money was. The tax revenue that Jackson used to have left the city. So a lot of the infrastructure has been crumbling just due to the lack of, money to aid in the continuation of those services. So Jackson is still losing. It's losing its population. A lot of people are leaving. A lot of the schools are consolidating because, there's no need to have as many schools that exist in the Jackson Public District. So a lot of schools are shutting down. These are places that, people went to school. They have a lot of pride in these schools. So I feel like that's another kind of loss of culture, loss of tradition, and loss of history and personal history that people lose because of this history of disinvestment and all the things that Jackson has experienced. So with what I want to do with my thesis, I'll bring my books. Okay, that took a bit of time. I thought I left the book in the studio. But the two books that I want to read today, and one book that I feel is particularly related to what I was saying, the Alamo Theater, as I was saying, with it's very important history, historical relevancy to African American culture, the culture of blues, and I feel like just this aspect of community that is so prevalent in the African American or Black community. I feel like it's important to make use of those bones, those creative, historical, cultural bones of this place. And I think the idea of obsolescence and demolition is very much rooted in capitalism and wanting to start fresh and create something that has its very roots are in its economical value. I feel like it's important to not jump straight to that. So in saying that, I would like to not demolish the theater. I think it's important for it to remain. My goal is to do an adaptive reuse, which in a sense, there are multiple definitions of adaptive reuse, and I'm kind of getting into it and reading this book. It's kind of going through the history of how it came to be and the way in which it used to exist and how it would exist in different places and the various reasons that it would happen. A lot of times, for one example, one of the historical cases that it gives is this idea of maybe a war or battle taking place, and maybe this city or community has been plundered by this other place, and they now own this territory. This architecture, this basically the bones of the city are now part of this other place. They own it, and they've plundered the resources So this idea of, I guess, not demolishing what existed in this place that they now own, but giving it a new purpose that fits their own culture. So this idea of erasure of what this place once was, but giving it a new function that fits, their philosophy and their way of existing. So that's a way of it's a very sad truth, but it's a way of giving an existing place a new purpose and function. And in this case, it's kind of a negative one, the idea of plundering a place and, taking over this territory in the city. But more, better examples, and I hope to get more into that in this book. There's a lot of precedents that I hope to look into. But another example is, old historical churches, they can be turned into, into anything. I've seen a lot of churches be turned into libraries. They've been given new purposes, and that's their new program, their new way of functioning, and it works very well. I'm trying to think of an example that I read, and let's see if I can find it really quickly. It was a great example, and I think for anyone that's listening or watching, if you want to look into this, let's see. Okay, yeah. So the new life of the 13th century Dominican church as a Selexi Dominicanan bookstore in Maya Street. So essentially, the Selexi bookstore in Maya Street, Netherlands, was an adaptive reuse project that. Wait, let me make sure I'm reading this right. Okay, I'm just going to read this sentence. So, the Columba Museum in Cologne, Germany, and a Selexi bookstore in Maya Street, Netherlands, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's okay, are by contrast example in which the reuse of an ecclesiastical structure is premised on the essence of the original one. In a Selexi bookstore where the existing church was entirely intact, the intervention instead referenced the rituals inherent in the church typology. Program functions such as the wine bar are placed in the altar and the apse, alluding to the substantiation of Christ at the altar. Such juxtapositions through building program connect, albeit with wit, the old and new uses, the presence of the soul and essence of the host building, physical or referential, distinguishes a project of adaptive reuse from that of a simple change of function. So I think that's a pretty great example of how you can continue to carry the essence of an existing building as it, transitions to this new program, this new function. And I think it keeps you from having to demolish, a structure and all the resources, the financial resources that it takes to do that, and the historical and cultural breadth that's also destroyed in the process. So I think those are the principles that I want to maintain in using the Alamo Theater. There's different ways that you can perform an adaptive reuse, where there can be no demolition at all. You could maintain the exterior and gut the interior. You can maintain certain parts of the building and add in new additions. You could build on top of it. You could build around it. You could maybe demo certain parts of materials. If there's certain bricks of the building that you want to keep, you can use them for another part or for new construction. So I'm using this book to help me figure out in which ways I want to breathe life into, the theater. And I guess the purpose that I want it to serve, and I'm getting a lot of my information and knowledge from this book. I want it to serve as this kind of more contemporary juke joint, not in the way that it existed in the past, but the essence of creativity that it had, the essence of it as a place of refuge, relief, the freedom to dance, the freedom to sing, the freedom to watch people sing, And it's just like the ability of this place to bring about the creation of what we know today as like, you know, Mississippi, like Delta blues. I feel like this kind of place as a site for the creation of that, it's very beautiful, and it's made more visible and tangible. And the movie Sinners by Ryan Coogler, and he referenced that this was a book that he read. It's called Blues People, Negro Music in White America by Leroy Jones, who also goes by Amir Baraka. And he kind of, actually, I'll just read this kind of famous from the introduction. It says, as I began to get into the history of the music, I found that this was impossible without, at the same time, getting deeper into the history of the people. The music was a score that actually expressed creative orchestration, reflection of African-American life, orchestrated, vocalized, hummed, chanted, blown, beaten, scattered, corollary, confirmation of the history, explaining the history as the history was explaining the music, and that both were expressions of and reflections of the people. So I feel like I want to use this as a way to like get more insight into the history of blues, the creation of it, the very context of how it came to be and how it changed over time. You know, we have all these different these musical art forms that exist now, that are direct descendants of blues, you know, such as jazz, you know, R&B, funk, rock and roll, all these other art forms that exist today. And I have this kind of take, and it's not a new take, but in kind of looking at American history and the heavy involvement of African Americans in that history and so much of what America is today, it makes me, you know, we're called African Americans, but I feel like, and this isn't to like say that like, oh, I'm proud to be an American or anything, but it's more so this a pushback against like this idea of like, oh, like Black history, but you know, Black history is American history. I feel like, you know, as Black people, in a way, we are, you know, one of the true Americans, just because of like how deeply rooted our history is in the very fabric of, you know, everything that is American. You know, the architecture, the construction of the White House, the culture, pop culture. You know, there's so much to it, and it's not something that I want to get into right now, or even can really eloquently like describe or talk about. But I do understand at a very surface level, like the kind of connection to that. So with this kind of new contemporary juke joint, I wanted to have the essence of the old Mississippi or Southern juke joint, this place that essentially, you know, brought forth the birth of the Delta blues. And in saying that, I kind of want a new thing to take place in this kind of new juke joint. I want, you know, it to maintain a lot of the functions that the Alamo Theater had, but I want it to be this place where people can come together, people can make music, people can record music, you know, people can sort of foster this new sense of cultural unity in Jackson. I feel like there needs to be a space where people can come together and this is the part where I kind of get lost, because I have this understanding of what I want it to do. I just don't know exactly how it would happen, but I want Jackson to be this place that has like, in a way, a new musical identity. I don't know, you know, what that looks like. Obviously, we have Jackson artists now, you know, that are making music in the context of their lives and the context of how they experience and see the world. But I want this place to be something that can begin to beget more of those people, more of those artists, more people who are proud to say that they're from Jackson, who are proud to participate, you know, within this place. I want it to be a place similar to the church, how historically a lot of like famous singers and musicians are derived from the church. They grew up in the church, and that becomes a reflection. the church itself and the music that they go on to create. I want this place to be another kind of like space for that to happen. In addition to like, you know, fostering the kind of music and cultural identity, I want it to be a place that begins to foster some kind of economic development, you know, in the downtown area. I want people to be able to have a place where, you know, they can have a place where they can be serviced and also pay for service. I think a lot of times, and the consensus with my friends and family members is that, you know, there's nothing to do in Jackson. I want this to be a place where people can do things. You know, people can maintain the functions of the theater. You know, it can be a place where movies are hosted, other things are hosted. There can be a place where people can buy food, people can buy drinks, you know, people can dance, people can perform, people can make music, they can record music, they can broadcast music. I want it to be this kind of big hub that's aiming, you know, to service people in the ways that they want to be serviced, and also malleable, you know, very community driven, community focused, and community oriented. You know, a place that's not static. I feel like I have an understanding of the programs that I want it to have, but I feel like, you know, that won't be its entire history. I think things should be allowed to change and morph into the needs of the people, and that's how I want this place to exist. So to get more into the program, you know, recording studios, restaurant, kitchen, offices, the theater as it is, maintaining that, but also opportunities and places, you know, maybe where people can dance, people can perform. And part of some of the questions that I've been getting with, you know, this place as an isolated thesis is, you know, the nearby buildings on that kind of fair street. Like, how can I begin to also think towards what those places can be? And I think I will explore that. I think having this place, this street, as a way that can, you know, begin to revitalize the downtown area, and I think it is an important kind of, you know, conversation, and it's a conversation that I'm having with myself, I'm having with others, and I think I would hope that, you know, my efforts can be reflected through my work, through this kind of like, you know, intellectual kind of question. And being from Jackson, it's also a very personal question as I reflect on my childhood and the history of Jackson itself. Yeah, and I'm thinking about it a lot, like the ways in which, you know, how I want this place to exist. But right now, it's important to design. It's important to make sure I'm educated enough to do this work, and I believe that it can, you know, have the essence of the, you know, 1920s, 1930s juke joint, most especially in the original creation of those places where they were brought about through essentially the adaptive reuse of old sawmills, old barns, maybe old abandoned buildings on like plantations, and they were kind of turned into these places of refuge, you know, similar to the church. And I think that's, in its kind of creation, that's what I should bring into the Alamo Theater, kind of taking the bones of this place and turning it into something new, something fresh, and something tangible and relatable, and something personal. So that's kind of where I am with my thesis. Today is just, you know, I've started reading these books already, but doing more of a deep dive into both of these and pulling from these principles of, you know, how I want to design this place. The beginning of a new infrastructure for Jackson and the downtown area, giving people a reason to be proud. And I think I hope that there can be things that come from the existence of what I'm trying to design that can affect, you know, other people, other places, that people can speak on being from Jackson with some pride. Obviously, this is all like a theoretical project. I'm not actually building it. You know, I don't have the funds. I'm not in connection with any, city officials. But I think that's just the goal of my thesis, to explore this and to see what it potentially can be, and to get feedback on it and see where it goes. This is a long video, but this is kind of just where I'm at with this thesis. And today is just gonna be eating this food, of course. It's been a little bit since I've put it in my bowl. Eating this food, hopefully getting the footage from like this and other things that I've recorded for the day. I think it might be the last footage that I get. And then, maybe relaxing a bit, reading both of these books, and then maybe posting this video along with another video. I have like a welcome back video for myself, like I guess on YouTube, that I need to finish editing and record. So those are my goals for today. I don't know, I may do other stuff. I probably will do something else that might not be a video, but yeah, as of now, that was mostly my morning and afternoon. So if you're listening to this video, thank you for watching. I hope to record more. I hope to be more honest with my recordings and, not just sitting behind a chair. I want to, record more often, edit more often, and post more often. I think I want to be more dedicated to this goal that I have. And I think that, there's no point in having a goal or a dream if I'm not acting on it. I think a dream is active when you're in pursuit of it, and it becomes not a dream, but it becomes this kind of pursuit. And I would like for everything that I'm aspiring for, I would like for myself to be in constant pursuit of those things so that they don't just remain dreams. I would like for them to become, active identities, an active existence for me, whatever I'm hoping for or aspiring for. And I know that can only happen with action. So if you're listening, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Where were we? I don't know.
It says we're at Inspiration Point. We're here.
Okay.
And the trail that we just got on, what is this,
Meadows Trail or something.
Meadows Trail? Yeah. Are we still extending? Where does it continue from here?
I'm thinking I think we just continue straight or something like that. Yeah, the current trail. There we go. Okay, that's part 2. Nice. Okay, part 3. How do we explain that we just ran away from a coyote that was chasing us?
Yeah, we got the.
And wait. Shh. Can you hear that? Yeah, that way. Okay. Okay, fuck.